welcome everyone. Thank you for attending today's webinar. My name is Kaylee, I'm with Fullscript, and we are very excited to have Leslie Vitale here with us today. She's going to discuss the secrets of creating a successful and lucrative sales funnel to entice your audience to make purchases and become repeat buyers. So a little housekeeping before we start. I just wanted to remind everyone that a recording of this webinar will be packaged up and sent to you after the event. Everyone who registered, so it'll be in your inbox. You can watch it again. They also live on our website, fullscript.com/webinars, so you can go back and find them all there. And if you have any questions throughout the webinar, there's a question box on your dashboard that enter them in there. I'll be here to answer any as we go, and then we will also do a live Q&A at the end as well. So I'd like to thank Leslie for being here today. She is a registered and licensed dietitian, nutritionist, and has additional degrees in exercise physiology and a master's in business admin. She's also a business coach and a consultant for registered dietitians, nutritionists, and integrative functional medicine practitioners. In addition to clinical and private practice, she has 13 years of experience as a sales and marketing executive within pharmaceutical and diagnostic testing sectors. She teaches clients to overcome the sense of overwhelm and confusion associated with the business side of running a successful practice. She offers private coaching, group programs, classes, webinars, workshops, and more from her home base where she lives outside of Chicago with her husband, 2 active children, and their dogs Rocky and Piper. So thank you again for being here. And with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to you and we can get started, and I will come back for the live Q&A later. Okay.
All right. Hello, and welcome everyone. I'm really excited to be here with each and every one of you today. And I love this topic, and I think you're going to love it too, especially in this day and age with everything moving online. So again, today we are going to talk about sales funnel secrets for filling your online course or workshop. And as Kaylee said, I'm a business consultant and mentor for functional medicine practitioners. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in. So let's start by talking about your private practice. So I know each of you are probably in different phases in terms of, your business building journey. That said, most commonly we work within the traditional service delivery model, that being one-on-one consulting and coaching services for our clients. So of course, this is referred to as the fee-for-service model. Essentially, this is where we work once, we're paid for our time, and that's end of story, right? Now, the thing I want to emphasize, make no mistake, one-on-one can be great in terms of generating revenue, and it is often the cornerstone of our work as practitioners. The thing I want to emphasize here is that if you're only doing one-on-one, you are missing out, and I would say leaving revenue on the table. So here are just some of the considerations, maybe drawbacks in terms of the one-on-one model. So first, it is an hours for dollars type of model. And again, you're trading your time for money in a direct one-to-one ratio. All right, this is really important. There is a dollar amount that you're eventually going to top out at, right? So you're going to get to the point, if you've been in business for a while, where it becomes difficult to continue charging more, to continue raising your prices, right? Because the market at a certain point just won't bear further price increases. So eventually you're going to max out on the amount you can charge for one-on-one work. And then of course, I'd say this is a huge consideration. You're also going to top out on billable hours, right? There's only so many hours in a day where you can actually work and bill for your time. So with these restrictions, your income then will eventually hit a ceiling. There will be really no way to grow in this model once you hit that ceiling, because again, you don't have more time to sell for one-on-ones. You can't really keep raising your prices because you've kind of hit that top end of what your market's willing to pay. And so this can leave you feeling kind of stuck unless you create leverage and passive income streams. So today is really about creating leverage and passive income as a way for you to expand beyond that one-to-one model and to ultimately be able to serve more people in a time-efficient manner. So let's just talk about that really quick. So leveraged income refers to being able to serve more people in any given period of time, right? And because we have a limited number of hours in a day, you need to be able to really utilize your time effectively. So to maximize our time, we can leverage it by serving groups of people versus one-on-one, or I should say in addition to your one-on-ones, right? On the other hand, passive income really refers to generating income via assets that you've already created. You know, things that you've already created in your business, such as digital products, maybe you have a workshop or an online course, for example. So generally speaking, these are standalone products that you create one time, and then you're able to passively generate income as a result, right? So so the webinar today, what I really want to focus on is the marketing aspect of your course or program. And the reason is, you're going to hear me say this a couple times, this is where most course creators really stumble. The reality is you can have the most incredible program, you know, the most wonderful, you know, award-winning home study product, but if you can't sell it, you're kind of stuck and you're just not going to make your return on investment. And certainly you're not going to be able to generate an additional revenue stream if this is the case. So unfortunately, in this scenario, your course is going to literally be sitting there collecting dust, right? We don't want that. And I will even say that I've seen this happen a lot. You could even potentially lose money, especially if you've invested your time and resources up front into the course creation process. And if your program, your online course, is housed on a platform that charges like a monthly fee. So, you know, we don't want you to be losing money. We want that course to get into the hands of the people that really need your help. So obviously, if you build it and they will come, yeah, not so much when it comes to the course creation process, for sure. So what are we going to cover today? We are going to cover the exact process for creating a sales funnel. Again, we're going to focus on marketing that will help you sell your course. How to turn your expertise into exponential income via leveraged and passive offers. How to design a sales funnel. We'll be talking a lot about sales funnels so that your prospects are effortlessly guided from finding you to buying from you. We'll talk briefly about the advantages of and differences between open enrollment versus an evergreen product. I'm going to share the 2 key incentives that inspire people to buy. And of course, I got a lot more to share, including I'm going to just briefly share a special opportunity that I have for you that I created actually specifically for the Fullscript folks. You're going to hear about a new ebook that I created for you, as well as an opportunity to really take a deep dive and master this entire process so that you can successfully create and launch your own online course or program. All right, so I'm going to share just a little bit of my history. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail here, but I want to share with you my own experience in moving my own practice. When I had my nutrition practice, I had a functional nutrition practice, and I moved it beyond the one-on-one services and really got into creating and marketing courses. And I want to share this to illustrate what a huge difference it made for me professionally, as well as my family. All right. So a few years back, you know, I had a little private practice. I was chugging along. I'd worked really hard to create it. You know, I was doing quite well. The thing was, though, is I found myself hitting some of those limitations that I mentioned earlier, right? I was full. I had no more hours in the day to serve people, which I know is a good problem to have. I couldn't really keep raising my prices because of that expected rate for my work. So I really felt like I had topped out in terms of, you know, what I could do inside of my business to increase revenue. And I will also say that I had 2 awesome kiddos who were in high school, and it certainly was not lost upon me that college was right around the corner. So bottom line is I realized what I needed was what we call a cash infusion. I needed a cash infusion that was higher than, a couple clients, private clients could bring in. And remember, I didn't really have the bandwidth, right? I didn't really feel like I had the bandwidth to just keep serving private clients. I was starting to feel tired. So it really became clear that the best way for me to grow my business back then and to be able to serve more people and to increase my revenue was to create an online course, to create and launch an online course. I realized that I needed to bundle up my expertise into a course format that many people could take at one time. Lots of advantages to doing this. I could make much more revenue in this format, right? It was I'd be able to serve more people who perhaps couldn't jump into a higher end one-on-one program with me. I was much more able to leverage my time in the one-to-many model. And of course, it really served as providing a nice payday, right? And I'm going to share a little bit more about that as well in just a moment. Ultimately, it was a win-win, right? I love the fact that I was able to add a service at the lower price point in my value ladder, right? I was very heavy on the high end price point. I needed to even it out by adding some lower end offers. And that's essentially what this course creation process did for me. It allowed people to enter in and work with me at this lower price point. I knew there were people out there waiting and wanting to work with me, but they just couldn't do it in the private setting. Now, I will share with you, I was really nervous about doing that, okay? I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I was nerve-wracked because I was nervous that, what if, like, oh my gosh, are people really gonna buy, all right? So I was nervous, I was worried. However, I will say it really turned out well. And I share this because seriously, if I can do this, there's no reason every single one of you cannot do this as well. So my very first launch, despite being really nervous about what was going to happen, I ended up getting 63 people to enroll in my course at a price point of $497. So very nice payday. I now had a college fund, which I was very excited about. And there's some additional really awesome things that happened as a result that I honestly did not expect. Several of these people that enrolled in my 497 course ended up enrolling in my higher touch group programs later after the course. 2 actually became private VIP level clients. I was able to substantially grow my email list. And I ended up, all being said, making an additional 48,000 on those who continued with my other offers, right? So, and guys, I've seen this happen over and over again with my own clients. It's just one of the amazing things. So not only do you get the pleasure of being able to serve more people at that lower price point, just this whole entire launch and marketing process puts you in a position where you just start to get momentum and growth, right? Your audience grows, you've got people reaching out, you've got people moving from your initial course into other products that you offer. So it really is exciting. So anyway, I've been wanting to teach the Fullscript folks these strategies for a really long time because it made such a big difference to me. So here we are. And again, I want to remind you that each and every one of you can do a successful launch, whether you want to leverage your time with a workshop or scale your business with an online course. All right, so let's say that you've got this concept. All right, so today's workshop, we're going to start at the point, we're not going to really talk about the course creation process itself. We're going to put that kind of, in a box, put it on a shelf for now. My 6-week course goes really deep in the course creation process. What I really want to teach you today is the marketing aspect, right? Because the marketing honestly, is really, believe it or not, of course you want to come up with a concept, right? You got to have a concept. And I know for sure that, you may not know off the top of your head what that is, but I guarantee with the work you do, there's multiple options that we could package up into a course option. All right. So, so we're going to focus on what happens after you've validated your course idea. Because again, understanding how to market and sell the course is really important. It's just as important as the creation process. So let's talk about sales funnels. All right. So what is a sales funnel? All right. So basically a sales funnel is a process through which your client meets you, right? They find you. Somehow they come across your work. They get to know you, right? They get to know you and they get a sense of what you're all about and how awesome your work is and how life-changing your work can be. They start to see the value of your material and your teaching and your approach. And then eventually, again, in this sales funnel, they're eventually offered an opportunity to actually purchase something from you. All right. So that's a really brief overview of a sales funnel. So essentially, a sales funnel is a multi-step process that inspires people into eventually becoming paid customers or clients. The bottom line, guys, it builds trust along the way. That is the purpose of a sales funnel. And the reason this is so important is that it's very difficult to get someone who is cold to you, like cold traffic. It's very difficult to get someone who doesn't know you really at all to purchase something from you, right? In a sense, we all need to be a little warmed up first before we feel comfortable, investing. So, all right, so we all love ice cream cones, right? Who doesn't? So I'd like you to think of the funnel as an ice cream cone. We'll use that as our analogy. So we're going to go a little deeper. I'm going to give you some examples of different types of sales funnels, and I think this will make really perfect sense. So the top of your funnel, top of your ice cream cone, represents all the ways people can meet you and basically sample your brilliance for free, right? So in this step of the funnel, they hear about you, okay? All kinds of ways people might hear about you: speaking, blogging, website. You might do a podcast. You might get referrals. Maybe they see your social media posts, or maybe you're live streaming, and that's how they come across you. So bottom line, there's just many, many, many ways a potential client can potentially learn about you and experience your work that is no cost to them at all up front. So the middle of your funnel is where you begin to create more of a relationship with these people, primarily getting them onto your mailing list and into your database, right? So at this point, often you'll offer something for which they need to register, by giving you their email address. So that's the key thing here that I want to drive home, is they join your email list in the middle part of your funnel. Maybe they sign up for some short videos or report, or maybe they do an online health assessment. Maybe they sign up for your newsletter. The bottom line is, as we go further down this funnel, they're going to continue. So I want you to continue this cone becoming more narrow. The bottom represents the paid offers you have, such as, you might have, this is your actual buyers at the bottom. They might be buying courses, workshops, or other passive income products, right? Or they might be signing up for one-on-one. But again, we're going to focus completely on, opportunities for you to leverage or create passive income, right? So we're not really talking about one-on-one so much right now. All right, bottom line is at the bottom of your funnel is where they buy, right? This is where you create the real relationship and transformation. And this represents actual buyers who eventually, hopefully, become raving fans of your work. Now, the reason we're using the cone analogy or the upside triangle is because the thing I want to point out here is that at the top, this is where most people are going to enter your sales funnel, right? So you're going to have the most people entering at the top. And then as we go down, you're going to have some attrition, right? So then you got a smaller subset of people that are willing to give you their name and email address, and then a smaller subset that are willing to actually become customers, paying customers. So the thing I want to really drive home is this is a very, very strategic and purposeful process, okay? Super strategic. The number one mistake, again, I gotta say it again, is that people, regarding their courses, selling their courses or passive income products, is that they don't have a plan, right? They don't have a plan to actually sell the course or fill the program. They create it, they spend tons of time creating it, they slap it up online or on their website, and they just kind of hope people will buy. And again, we know that doesn't happen, right? So next, what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you a few examples here. We're going to reverse engineer your course creation process, again, starting with the marketing plan. All right, before I do that though, I want to share the difference. There's two different, basically, sales funnel processes, and I want to just spend a moment differentiating these two options. So today we're going to talk about what's called, it's often referred to as an open closed enrollment and an evergreen program. So an open and closed enrollment versus evergreen. I'm going to just talk a little bit about the differences. So open closed enrollment, basically, you're going to, if this is the model you choose, this is where you've got an upcoming live course. It starts on a particular day and time, right? So there's a lot of marketing that goes in up front in order to fill your course, because you're starting on a certain day and time. You want to have all your registrants, enrolled and ready to go. Now, what's the difference between that and an evergreen program? So an evergreen program, generally speaking, is passive. Generally speaking, it's pre-recorded most often, and it's not live, okay? So essentially, people can buy it at any time, typically, right? There's some nuances, and some people, have hybrids and things like that. But just to keep things simple, generally speaking, an evergreen program is passive. It's usually pre-recorded, and of course, it's not live. So let me give you an example. I'm going to give you examples for both kinds of sales funnels so that it really helps to clarify. So this is a hypothetical example. So let's say you want to do an open closed enrollment, right? Again, that's where it starts on a specific day, ends on a specific day. And we want to fill this course so that we've got, lots of people participating all at the same time. So usually this is, of course, delivered live, in person, although most often, especially nowadays, this is done via the internet, right? It could be done on Zoom. There's all kinds of different platforms we can use. So I'm going to use a hypothetical example just to really drive home the marketing strategy. All right. So hypothetically, let's say you're wanting to sell a course all about healing leaky gut. All right. So let's just say you've got this concept. It's this awesome live 8-week course that you feel is really going to transform lives. Okay, so this is an example of a live course starting on a specific day. It's not a home study. It's still the one-to-many model, right? Because they've got one trainer, you, and multiple participants, right? Which again equates to a higher, more revenue per given hour than the traditional one-to-one model. So let's reverse engineer what this looks like, all right? So again, your course is healing from leaky gut. That's going to be at the bottom of the funnel. So we're going to start from the bottom and work up, and then in a little while, we're going to do the opposite, just so you are crystal clear on what needs to happen to fill your course successfully. All right, so you've got this concept, healing from leaky gut. It's the one-to-many model. You've got the idea, and this is where, of course, people sign up. If we go upwards, again, we're reverse engineering. We're starting with the concept first, In the middle is where you need to offer something of value to people so that they are willing to share their name and email address with you in order to get that thing, right? It might be a free report. There's all kinds of things we could do here. The goal, though, that I want you to be really clear on in this middle part is you must deliver value, all right? Must deliver value. Some launches start with a free report, which we'll see on the next slide, and then lead to a webinar. Like that is a model that I've used myself many times. Some, just do a webinar, some just do a report. There's a lot of ways you can do it. Bottom line, again, in the middle, we're delivering value, we're creating know, like, and trust, and we are getting names and emails, in exchange for this value, all right? So it could be, I came up with a couple of just examples, maybe since your webinar or your paid course is on healing leaky gut, maybe you want to do a free report on 7 foods you must avoid if you have leaky gut, right? That would be a nice lead in to your paid course. Or maybe you're thinking, gosh, I think I want to talk about some key supplements that can help heal leaky gut. So maybe you go, yeah, I'm going to do a webinar or a free report called the 5 key supplements to help heal your leaky gut, right? So that's in the middle. People give you their name and email because they really want this valuable information. And this allows you to stay in touch. So another thing that you could do in the middle of your funnel, as I mentioned, is a live webinar. So maybe you're like, I'm gonna skip the free report. I'm just going to do a webinar because I really enjoy speaking. And so that's what I'm going to focus on. So you may decide to do a live webinar talking about, giving some tips on how to heal from leaky gut. Note that it's not going to be super in depth because that's what your paid course is on, right? You're just going to give very high level, maybe education and some tips, right? Some very high level tips on what to do. All right. So again, to get the webinar, people are going to sign up. They're going to register with their name and email address. All right. So that's super important. And let's say you deliver the webinar, they receive lots of value. And this way you can stay in touch, right? You're able to stay in touch with people. Guys, this is super important because we want to be able to stay in touch with people in order to kind of take them through the funnel. And the best way to do that is through email, all right? It really is shown over and over again. Of course, we might want to supplement our marketing efforts with other, platforms, but email is still really highly recommended. Now, I do want to mention a caveat here. In the middle here, and I've done this the last launch I did, I decided to, instead of like a live webinar or a free report, what I did was I decided to do like a 3 or 4 day free training series, a live training inside of a Facebook group. And that is kind of a new trend that I'm seeing more and more. And I have done it, my clients have done it, and it is also very effective. So again, driving home the point, there's more than one way to do this, but really the bottom line is you're providing value in this middle stage, regardless of the platform that you use. Now, you've got this awesome, report, webinar, or whatever it is you're going to do. The top of the funnel, we have to think about, well, how are we going to let people know? How are we going to let people know? Because this is where people enter into your sales funnel, is at the top. So we want to get the word out in as many places as we can so that people can go through the sales funnel, right? We want to start them with the free thing because then again, it warms them up. It allows them to get to know you, okay? So how do we do that? A million ways. You might say, I'm going to book a whole bunch of local talks and let people know. I'm going to, do some blog posts, social media. I'm going to let my referral partners know. Many, many ways you can get in front of people. Now what I want to do is look at it the reverse way. All right. So now we're going to look at the same funnel from the top down, right? So again, somebody hears about you, right? They might catch you doing a free, like a Facebook video tip. They might see your blog. They might see your website. Basically, they want more after they get that initial contact with you. Then let's say they happen to see this really amazing report that you've created that is going to shine some light on their, horrible digestion, their bloating, their brain fog. So they pop in their email address and download your leaky gut report, right? So once they do this, they're automatically invited to your brand new webinar all about that subject. And now they're really excited, they're intrigued, they downloaded the report, and they have been invited and attended your webinar. So this is like you're doing a free report and a webinar, right? Remember I said you could do one, you could do two, there's any combination. In this example, you decided to do a report and a webinar, all right? And now they're like, wow, I'm really intrigued. I'm kind of thinking this person can help me really solve my problem, right? So then they end up buying your 8-week course on healing from leaky gut, and you're able to take them on a deeper dive and really make progress in solving their problem. Guys, this is an example of a successful funnel. Okay, all right, so now bonus info. What makes a live launch different? Well, you can do some pretty cool incentives with a live launch, like early bird savings and fast enrollment bonuses. Example, so early bird savings, what does that mean? Well, if people enroll by a certain date, they get a special price, right? You guys all know what, I think you probably know what that means. So after that date, the price goes up, and that really entices people. It's a huge motivator for people to get off the fence and decide. It's a really good incentive, and because people want to save money and they still get the full value of your course. Another really awesome kind of a bonus is like giving them what I call a fast enrollment bonus. So a special opportunity for the first people that sign up. For example, you might give the first 10 a special service, or you might give them a bonus of a 30-minute consultation or something like that. Or maybe you give the first 20 people, you bonus a special workshop of some sort. I've done all of these or both of these, and they both work extremely well. You could do both of them in the same launch even. All right. Now, so with the fast enrollment bonus, basically it's the first X number of people to enroll that get the bonus, right? So first 10, first 20, whatever you pick. Once those people sign up, the bonus is done, but it does create fast action for motivated people. It's super, super incredibly motivating for people. All right, you guys, again, you can use both types of bonuses, the early bird savings and fast enrollment, to create a real sense of urgency and excitement. Now, one little tip, another tip I want to share is once your launch is over, right? Your launch is over. I do recommend that you take down this free report and webinar, right? I'd substitute it with, something else, but basically you can save these to use the next time you launch the same course, right? So then next time it won't be as time intensive. Let's talk about evergreen. How's evergreen differ? So again, evergreen is usually something you already have, it's already completed, and now you're selling it. So generally it's not live. Usually it's always available for purchase, and typically there's no specific launch timeline. Guys, that's a huge difference between the two launches. And again, this is in general. Generally speaking, they're with your live launch, it's calendared out, like it's really, really highly planned. With the evergreen, not so much, right? Because it's always available, which is a double-edged sword, I might add. So let's go through this process. This type of funnel, once again, people hear about you, right? They hear about you, same ways, right? They hear about you and they want more. And again, maybe you're doing a podcast, or you're a guest speaker, you offer a freebie, right? So you offer a free report. Maybe you mention your webinar coming up. People decide, yes, I want that, and they are willing to share their name and email address in exchange. Okay, so once the person consumes your free material, then they're usually really intrigued with your ability to help them, and they want more usually, right? There's a segment of the population that is going to be willing to invest in themselves to get more of your brilliance, right? Now, the thing I want to share with you is that this evergreen process, this evergreen launch can be highly automated, right? It can be very automated. So, which is great because once you get it set up, essentially it pretty much runs on its own, all right? A little more complicated up front, but once you get it set up, it's pretty cool. Case in point, so let's point to the obvious. Even those of you who are attending today, you found out about me, found out about my work, in this case, through the email you got from Fullscript inviting you to this webinar, right? You might have also seen me. I do a lot of speaking. I do blog posts. I guest on podcasts. I do live streams every week. So you might have seen me around in other places as well. All right. But you're invited to join me today through Fullscript. So you signed up for this webinar, and that is a step in the funnel, right? So that was the first step. So later in our time together, I'm going to invite you to grab my new ebook called The 7 Mega Mistakes to Avoid Creating and Selling, that you want to avoid in creating and selling your online course, and what to do that works, right? So that's going to be the second step in the funnel, is you're going to be invited to grab my ebook. All right. And then you're going to hear in a little bit about a special offer for my program that goes into a ton of depth about all this. And I've created this specially for the Fullscript folks, right? So this program that you're going to hear about is completely automated. There are video trainings, handouts, special guest speakers, but it's all pre-recorded so that you can watch and consume the material at any time at your leisure, which makes it evergreen. All right. So this is going to be an evergreen opportunity. All right. So just another quick example. Let's look at that same example, that healing leaky gut example. Let's see how that would look in an evergreen type of launch. So in an evergreen launch, you would start with pre-created follow-up emails, right? So like you're going to offer, let's say you're going to offer that 7 keys to healing leaky gut, right? You want to offer that same ebook. Then your people would get a series of follow-up emails that are automated, right? Remember I said it's highly automated, so they're already uploaded and triggered automatically once they opt in. And this is done via autoresponders. And in these emails, you're telling them about, your paid program, and you're also you're promoting the paid program, and you're offering different incentives for them to step in and invest in the program, right? You could still do early bird pricing if they buy by a certain time, or, there's different things you can do in terms of incentivizing. The key thing is, for the most part, it's completely automated and it takes care of itself, right? So pretty cool to imagine, everything you're doing both online and off to get people interested in your work, that very gracefully leads people to a free report or a webinar, which they sign up for happily, which then can trigger this automation sequence to nurture the person through the purchase of your paid course, right? So that is pretty nice. What I want to share just briefly, I'm not going to go super deep into Facebook ads, but I just want to touch on it, especially because I think it's especially relevant with the concept of an evergreen course. Lots of people use Facebook ads to generate sales with their evergreen courses. So just really brief, it can be a really great way to get in front of new people really fast, right? The thing is, you want to pay close attention to the metrics and the math. Of course, you want to ensure that you're making more than you spend, right? Sounds obvious, but you just want to make sure you're getting your return on investment. And if you're doing this and you are making more, you're really got yourself a profitable and repeatable model. And the reason why, again, this can be so helpful is, it's time consuming to always be doing live talks and, getting in front of your audience in other ways. So this is a paid option. You don't have to do this to be successful, but sometimes people choose to do it because, it's a nice way to get in front of people. So, all right, so let's just say this is an example of a successful Facebook ad. So let's say you spend $100, you get 5 people to sign up and give their email address. They go into the promotional sequence, and let's say at the end, one person buys your $300 course. Not a bad profit, right? So you can see how not only if you can nail the sequence, you're generating leads for free, which is a very important consideration, right? Just generating leads for free is huge, but not only that is you're making a really nice profit in this example, right? So this is how, a lot of people, once they get their course on Evergreen, this is how they sell it. I'm gonna share with you some really, really awesome, what I call Whopper keys for creating and selling online courses, including some really important information. Before we go there, I want you to check out the ebook that I have for you. I think it's going to be super helpful. I go into a lot more detail in terms of strategies, not only what not to do, like the big mistakes that I see, really important, but what to do instead when it comes to successfully creating and selling your online course. So go ahead and grab that at lesliebytel.com/fullscript. And once you've downloaded your free report, you're going to get all the information about my full program. It's called Lucrative Course Blueprint, and the special offer I created, again, just for Fullscript. So download the report first, lesliebytel.com/fullscript, and you'll get an email that contains all the details about Lucrative Course Blueprint, 6 modules, 4 guest speakers, trainings, over 40 templates and handouts, literally covering every single step you need to successfully create. So I do talk about this course creation process and to fill your online courses or to sell your home study products. So that's where you're going to find all that information. Guys, I've offered this course twice. It sells out every time. And I get amazing feedback on it. So definitely, if you are interested in wanting to really successfully leverage your time, and be able to add a revenue stream into your business, I really think that this will help you to be able to achieve that. So check it out. All right, so let's talk about those 5 really crucial tips that I want to share. Tip number 1, oh my goodness, so important. Okay, really important is that you want to make sure that you know what your audience wants. When it comes to course creation, it might sound obvious, but it is amazing how many practitioners of all kinds believe they have an idea of what their audience is looking for, and they create a course and nobody buys, okay? So yeah, it could be the marketing plan is off, but the first step, and in my Lucrative Course Blueprint, I teach you how to validate your idea. Suffice it to say, you got to be confident that not only do you want to create this, but it's something that is compelling for your audience, right? Sometimes there's a disconnect with what we think our audience wants versus what they really want. So that is really super important, all right? So now I'm going to give you a quick example with my own practice. So I have a 6-month program called my 6-Figure Biz Academy. Super comprehensive, everything you need to know, soup to nuts, to build a thriving business, specifically functional nutrition. And so it's really a deep dive, everything you need to know, A to Z, to build a thriving practice. But as my first course, I thought to myself, I don't want to go out of the gate with this huge 6-month program. Like, that felt like too much. So I asked myself, what would be the perfect smaller lead-in program? So what I did was I began to listen. I interviewed my audience. I really paid attention. And I started to see that one of the biggest challenges that my clients were having was actually enrolling their clients into packages and programs and memberships. Okay. So that's a challenge. It just didn't feel good to them. So the urgent need that I identified was to help them to turn their consultations into paying clients. All right. So that is what happened. And essentially, my course, the course that I referred to earlier in this talk, that's how that concept was born. Turning conversations into clients was the end result. And, because I had done my market research, my homework, I listened, I interviewed, I was able to come up with a smaller concept, like a piece of what I teach versus the whole thing, right? And so it just made it less overwhelming. And so I was able to extract that one thing I teach and really take a deep dive in how to have these really awesome consultations with potential clients that lead to them, saying, yes, I want to work with you, sign me up. So the key is figure out what your audience desperately needs, listen, interview them, do some market research in Facebook groups. Bottom line, you need to identify what people need solved now, right? It needs to be urgent. That is like really the key. All right, tip number 2, make sure your free content delivers value. We touched on this a little bit before. So again, I'm talking about that free report, guide, webinar, video, whatever it is you're doing in the middle of your funnel. These items also need to lead people to the understanding that there's more information at greater depth so that they will actually be motivated to buy your paid program. So it is very strategic in terms of what you're going to offer in the middle here. They really need to understand that there's more. So be cognizant of that too. I don't want you to feel like you need to be withholding because you absolutely need to provide value. At the same time, you want to kind of let them know that there's a lot more to be learned and had in your paid course. Now, what I see all too often is I see webinars and reports that really don't provide much value. I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. And it really ends up feeling like a sales job. So, it comes across as kind of stingy, not generous, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to be that person. So, you really want to be cognizant of teaching, really valuable content in your free content. All right. So you want to make sure your webinar, your free report is actually teaching useful content, even for those who may never buy from you. All right. So you got to go into this with the mindset, knowing some people are going to buy, some people aren't. It's all good. Right. So even if they don't buy, you want to be that person that's providing value. All right. Case in point, everything I'm teaching you here today, really you should be able to immediately use everything that you're learning today. And that was really my commitment, is to provide tremendous value in this webinar. All right, tip number 3 is you don't need your entire course created before you begin selling it. Right? You're probably thinking, okay, how is that possible? I know I thought that. This is actually probably my favorite tip because it surprises people. So the reality is you don't need your entire course created before you begin selling it. And I'll share a little background about why and what to do. The reason is, again, I've seen it all. What tends to happen is you get so bogged down and intimidated, right? The potential for just getting overwhelmed, getting stuck in that perfectionism, it prevents some people from even starting, right? They just keep thinking and tweaking and tinkering, and they don't even get it off the ground. So here's the secret. Here's what you need to know. You don't need to create it all, guys. You really don't. I've done this again and again. But here's what you do need to know to sell it, to pre-sell it. You got to know the subject matter. You have to know how it's going to be broken down, like in each class or module, and what's going to be taught in each. So you really need a solid outline. Of course, you got to name the course, and honestly, with these pieces, you are able to get pre-sales for the course before you actually sit down and create the content. So again, you got to know the subject matter. You need a good outline, what's going to be taught, how it's organized. You got to name the course, and you can market your brand new program once you have this information. It's not a bad idea to know what handouts you're going to give as well. I like to do that, but again, you don't have to have them all created. All right. Oh, here's a reiteration. You need to have the outline, fleshing out the script, handouts, audios. That can be done 1 week at a time. And I think it's better that way, especially in a live launch, because then you can kind of tweak things as you go. You're seeing how people are learning, and you're able to course correct, right? Based on what's happening in the course and really what your students are needing most. All right, so tip number 4, this one's really great too, is you can actually be paid to create a passive income product. So remember when I shared that years ago, I saw so many people creating a home study program, and after hours and hours of writing and recording and popping them onto their website, like doing all this work, nobody buys, right? I shared a little bit about that. So what if I told you how you could actually be paid in order to create a passive income product? Here's how you do it. All right, so you deliver your course live the first time. You generate revenue by delivering the course live the first time. You simply record it the entire time, and then the plan is to make it into a home study later or an evergreen product later, right? So you're getting paid for the first time, and you just use all the recordings, the videos and handouts, etc. And you package it up into a home study product or a home study program for future sales, right? So that is another really great strategy. And I love this strategy because it really assures that it will sell. It has sold to a paying audience. Guys, this part's really important. I really like the idea of first doing, I know the evergreen sounds super appealing, and trust me, it is. It's amazing when you can make that work. The thing that I would recommend is that the first time you do a course, it's not a bad idea to do it live the first time. You can work through the kinks, you can course correct, and then ultimately you rest assured that it's going to sell, right? So that's super important. So before you put in all that effort and work into creating your evergreen funnel, you're already assured to a degree that you've got a program that your clients want to buy, right? This makes so much more sense than sitting home by yourself, spending hours, recording, creating handouts, and putting content together only to find out that it's not what your audience wants. So it really assures that it has sold to a willing audience. And if you create it 1 week at a time, as I suggested in tip 3, by the end, you've got your whole home study product finished. And again, you were paid to create it. So a second way to be paid to create a home study is, again, to pre-sell it. And so what you do here is when you promote the entire program in detail and say it'll be available on a certain date, You do the entire sales funnel and launch sequence, as I shared with you. And then honestly, if at the end of that launch period, if you end up without enough sales, you either scrap the idea or you tweak it, right? But at least you haven't, again, invested just, tons and tons of time creating a product or a program that, isn't quite right for whatever reason. All right. So most likely then you'll have been paid to pre-create a course. And the last really good tip I want to share is consider doing a beta, right? So a beta course, you can offer a beta course to a small subset of your potential clients. And the incentive for them is they help you to develop it, give you feedback. So in this case, you're not promoting it publicly yet, right? You're just kind of handpicking some people to go through the program either for free, maybe at a discounted price, something like that. You're going to save all the fanfare of the launch for later. And again, this assures that you develop something your community truly and deeply wants. You can do this again by hand inviting a group of people to be in maybe a special advisory group. Again, maybe the course is offered at a reduced rate. In return for getting feedback and opinions, it does help the course to improve. And you can add the necessary elements and clarity after you figure out what's not working and really perfect the program for a later launch. So that is really not a bad idea as well. All right. So all right, so today my hope is that you got a ton of value. You learned the ins and outs of sales funnels, critical keys to create a successful online course without too much risk. And I want to close our time together, by just reminding you to grab my ebook, 7 Mistakes to Avoid in Creating and Selling Your Online Course and What to Do Instead, by going to lesliebytel.com/fullscript. All right, so I am going to stop showing my screen and I'm not sure if I can do that, Kaylee. I might need you to get me out of screen share so that we can do a little Q&A.
You know what? Let's see here.
Let's see. I don't think I can do that.
Me.
Oh, wait.
Oh, there we
Well,
go.
I'm out of my keynote, but am I still sharing my screen?
No, I think it's just us.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And
Okay.
we got a ton of questions. So
Okay.
I've written them, or I have them all here, but if we don't get to them all, we can try to, package them together and offer them in a follow-up, or try to get to them all anyways. But there's some great ones. So we'll start it off. In the part of the funnel where you use assessments, can you use assessments that are pulled from other sources, or do you have to note that as well?
Yeah, I would probably give that person credit that created the assessment, honestly, because it's not easy to create a great assessment. So yeah, probably want to give that person credit.
And then another actually on assessment too. When you're using assessments, are they only questionnaires, or do you ever offer lab assessments at a cost?
For that middle part of the funnel, I think that's what is that question mainly asking, can you offer? Okay, so let me maybe take a step back. So in the middle part of the funnel, it's all about developing rapport and trust free of cost. So you're not asking anyone to pay for anything in that middle part of the funnel. I suppose you could, like the next step, the paid service, I suppose it could be labs. I've not seen people do that. I'd probably need to think through that a little bit more. But the last step in the funnel is to pay for something, essentially, right? So I think a variety of different services could potentially work. probably need to hear more about like what your, what would your goal be? What would your end goal be if
Yeah.
you offered labs, paid labs?
Yeah. I guess also then along this funnel questions, if you're a licensed professional, is there any liability involved with this funnel model?
Okay. So, gotta say, I'm not an attorney, right? Um, that being said, I'm going to paraphrase what I have heard. All right. But again, I would highly recommend for licensure questions or any legal questions that you really need to consult an attorney. It's my understanding that for licensed practitioners, I mean, I feel like the question that I often get is, can you cross state lines? Like, can you enroll people into your program? If I live, like I live in Illinois, I live right outside of Chicago. Can I do a online program and enroll people that live in Ohio, right? A state where I'm perhaps not licensed. Again, my understanding is that you can. The difference is, so here's the clincher. You can't do MNT, medical nutrition therapy, things like that in a group. So here, in a group format, you can teach everybody the same thing. Okay, maybe that's the best way to explain it. If you're teaching everybody the same thing, like for example, I have people teaching the FODMAP diet, right? Like to help people with IBS. That's their thing. That's what they teach in an online course. They teach everybody that signs up, regardless of where they live, the FODMAP diet, the ins and outs. Where, again, my understanding is that you need to be careful is if you are giving personalized advice
Mm.
to any participants about their unique medical history and adjusting your recommendations based on their history. That's where you have to be careful. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like that's like a topic we could also discuss too. And
Yeah,
but
for sure.
yeah, another question: what type of launch strategy do you find most successful? Like webinars, challenges, or is there a specific one that you like to use the most? I guess.
Yeah, good question. So I got to share, I have my private clients, I walk them, I hold their hand while they're going through the launch process, right? So I've seen all different strategies. I just had a client recently, she loves webinars. She did great. Like the webinar strategy was really helpful. Um, she did more or less a beta, right? She wasn't marketing it to everybody. She was just marketing her course to her private Facebook group. Okay.
Mm.
So that's interesting. On that note, I think I mentioned this a little bit in the content that I shared today. The trend that I'm seeing that really does seem to work is doing like, instead of doing like a webinar where it's like one and done, basically you do the webinar, you hope people show up, you hope for the best, and
Yeah.
then you start sending emails, right? So what I'm seeing working really quite well is, instead of that, you're basically breaking your webinar up into 3 parts and delivering, like each day, maybe for 3 days, you're delivering a piece of that live. And I got to share, the other thing that is surprisingly effective is to create like a fill in the blank workbook that goes with it. And you might think, why would a workbook be so great? Well, because people want to fill in the blanks. It really helps decrease multitasking. It's crazy, but so I really like that method. I did it and it worked great, and I'm going to do it again. So most of my clients are doing like the challenge or the complimentary training. Inside, it could be inside of a Facebook group
Yeah.
or not. Like there's where you deliver it is not as relevant, and that I do want to mention, when you're promoting the idea of a challenge or a free training series, guys, you're not selling a new Facebook group. That's not what so you're not saying, hey everybody, I have a new private Facebook group, want to join? No, nobody wants another Facebook group. You're really promoting the merits of what they're going to learn, right? And then you're saying, and guess what? If you know to participate, it's taking place in a private Facebook group. I hope that makes sense to everybody. That's really the key to making it work.
No, that's great. I agree with no more Facebook groups
Yeah,
or only
right.
specific ones that you're interested in. I agree with that for sure. I guess kind of
Yep.
on the lines of that, we did have a question of how many people would you limit to a beta group? Or do you have a
Mm,
limit or?
yeah. I think it depends on what it is you're teaching. Let's just assume it's, a 6-week course where there's not, because there's a lot of like hybrid approaches to all these strategies I taught. But let's just assume for simplicity that it's a 6-week course. It's pretty straightforward. You're not promising that you're going to give like, individual feedback and things like that, right? So honestly, I don't know if it really matters in that case. Um, you know, I would, I don't know if there's a magic number, maybe 10, 20. I had a client that recently did her first launch and it was really successful. She closed it at 20 people because she got kind of nervous, right? And in retrospect, she was like, I don't know why I closed it. So, but she just kind of got nervous, like, oh my gosh. But the reality is, yeah, maybe 10 or 20. I'll stick with that. And that way you can get a nice amount of feedback.
Yeah, I was gonna say too, I mean, maybe it depends on your timing too. The more you have in the beta group, then, the more work you might have to put in and more reporting and seeing everything after that. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
I also agree with that. It
Yeah.
doesn't have
You
to
could,
be
yeah, yes, you could promote it as a really exclusive opportunity that's limited, right? And really create that sense of scarcity that would motivate people to want to be part of the beta group. So by limiting it, that could be one of the advantages. Do you see how strategic all this is?
Yeah.
How you have to really think through every decision. Yeah, to really be clear on, okay, why am I doing this? What's my end game goal?
Yeah. Yeah. So have you seen more signups after your first launch or less, or are you more consistent? Some people purchase new things, but then the excitement of that fades. So what has your experience been with the sign up?
Great question. Great question. Yeah, so my very first launch went great. Really, really felt really good about that. Second time I launched the same program. I think I've launched that program 3 times. Yeah, it was pretty equal, I would say, across the board. Now, I will say the key, if you're gonna continue to launch the same product or program over time, the most really, I think the important thing is you have to be able to get in front of new people, right? So that's why in the background, when you're not launching, I highly recommend that you're diligently trying to grow your email list so that you've got new people, right? So let's say you do your first launch, right? And it's super successful. And then you don't grow your email list in between. Well, probably the second time you do it, it's going to be lower because all the people have already heard about it. Whoever wanted it, for the most part, they already did it. So really, really important if you want your launches to be stable with the same product over time, you really want to focus on continually getting in front of new people and growing your list. So hope that helps.
Yeah. And have you noticed any change, maybe either more change or less change in the demand for online courses since the pandemic has hit?
I think it's honestly, I think it's higher.
Yeah.
Everything is online. I think, well, virtual services, and I'm sure most, all of you can attest to this. Like, because of the pandemic, virtual services are the new norm, right? It is the new
Definitely.
normal. We don't have those obstacles like resistance from clients. We don't have our own internal resistance for the most part, because we're kind of forced to go online. And I think because of that, people are just, yeah, I think it's increased. It is definitely, I don't have statistics in front of me, but from everything I've read, it's just online learning just continues to increase the demand. So I don't see that ending anytime soon. I really don't.
I definitely agree with that. I think even like personally, I'm always looking for new courses and new workshops and everything to do. And now that we're at home more, I feel like it's only going to increase. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
a couple questions on your evergreen products and your evergreen slides. How do you manage people who are on your evergreen products that have questions about the content? Do you end up answering a lot of emails? Are they allowed? Kind of thing, and that
Uh,
ever.
Good question. So one thing that I see, you have to decide. That's another thing that you kind of need to decide before you launch an evergreen product. One thing that I see pretty commonly, especially, I suppose it depends on your price point, but I think a solution to that, if you're willing and if you feel, again, some of it's going to depend on your price, but a solution could be to have a special Facebook group where people can ask questions, right?
Yeah,
So I don't think that I'm just going to be really honest, guys. I don't recommend that people email you directly with questions, because we need to differentiate what you're doing for your private clients, like your VIP, that value ladder that I touched on, your low end products. Quite frankly, I don't think really include personalized emailing back and forth, right? You could, again, create a special Facebook group to address questions, but I think that raises the price point a bit. And I would reserve email access to you for your VIP level clients.
yeah. Yeah, I agree with that for sure. And then do you recommend upsells at the end after people commit?
Uh, oh, good question. Yeah, you absolutely. So that is a good strategy where, once they say yes and they register, you can have like a pop-up that says, okay, super excited to have you. Would you also like this? Right? And the this could be oh gosh, it could be so many different things. Like it could be, a special PDF that accompanies the training, or the ability to download the trainings, or maybe it includes, I don't know, some private sessions. Again, you got to be careful with the private sessions if you're promoting in different states where you're not licensed. So that would be a consideration. But yeah, I definitely recommend it. I think it's a really good strategy.
Yeah. And what platform would you recommend? I think this question was asked around that tip number 4, delivering courses live. If you have like a
Oh,
platform
okay.
that you would recommend
Okay.
over another, I guess. Yeah.
So for live delivery of courses, I got to tell you, I've used Zoom 100%, and I've been really happy with it. So for delivery of live courses, Zoom does the trick. The $15 a month, subscription has done it for me. I don't need anything else. There are other platforms that I'm not as familiar with. Zoom does the trick. For Evergreen, you do have a few choices. There's Kajabi. I just looked into Kajabi because, like I said, I created this special opportunity just for Fullscript folks. So literally, I just moved my lucrative course blueprint to Evergreen for you guys. So I just looked into the different platforms. Kajabi is, like a lot of people love Kajabi. It's got a lot of capabilities. It was a little more than what I thought I needed. I looked into the investment. It's a couple grand to get the software. So I don't know if they have monthly fees on top of that. It does a lot. I went with Teachable. I've used Teachable from like the user perspective, right? I've gone through many online courses with Teachable, super easy, user friendly, good, decent price point. There's I think it's called Thinkific. That's another one people use. So you've got some options there, really depending on your budget and what your technology needs are.
Yeah, weigh your options, I guess, do some research. Yeah. Do we have to worry about HIPAA compliance with the tech required to host and market digital courses or products?
Yeah, that's a good question. Again, a legal question, guys, for sure. I would say, yeah, I would say yes. You need to figure that one out. I don't think I should answer that because it really is a legal question. I don't want to, step into that domain.
Yeah,
I know I can share what I did when I had my nutrition practice. I had people sign a waiver, right? Now what I would recommend nowadays is to see an attorney and get one written up. I just kind of had a, piecemeal kind of do it yourself sort of waiver at that time. And I never had any issues, but I just think nowadays you probably want to be, get something from an attorney written up and share it with the participants in the group and really get them to agree to not share, like whatever, it's confidential, that kind of thing. Super important.
Yeah, actually, just going back to some of the platforms you mentioned, we had a question. If you could spell out or say that platform you just mentioned again, it's like Kajabi.
Oh yeah, Kajabi. Yeah, it's K-A-J. I think it's A-B-I, Kajabi. It's a great platform. Guys, the one thing I would say, like, I'm just going to be really transparent here. The thing you want to be cognizant of is like, because they have some really good marketing, okay? Like really good. Like you read their marketing and you're like, oh my God, like they're going to write the course for me. You almost leave with that impression. So just be cognizant of, I mean, of course, you all know your own budgets, but yeah, just, you just want to be, I would just recommend that you, to the degree possible, just be conservative because, it can add up quick, especially if you don't know if your course is going to actually sell, right? So that's the thing. Before you invest $2,000, right? You want to make sure that you're onto something. And that's why I recommend that you offer it live first. And that way you're assured that you've got a product that has enough demand to warrant, an investment and putting it on evergreen. So that would be my recommendation.
Yeah. Okay, well, we actually probably have one more question that's pretty good, and then we can kind of wrap things up. So there are attendees saying, I have some perfectionism issues, and now there are bigger players, retreat centers, agencies, larger practices, and organizations jumping in on this game, and that's intimidating. How can I compete with them?
Oh gosh. I wouldn't, okay, so this is a mindset thing, honestly. So, and I actually love helping people through this. So I'm a dietitian, it comes with the territory, perfectionism. It really does. So it kind of takes one to know one is what I'm saying here. So guys, the thing is that I don't want you to think of it like you're competing with them. Okay. It's really knowing that you have a ton to offer and you can help people in this format in a group, right? That's really what it's about. And when it comes to marketing, I will share that the key to your success, because a lot of people are not doing this well, as I alluded to, the key, again, make sure you're tapping into what your target audience urgently wants and needs. If you're able to do that, if you're able to solve a problem, like an important problem for them, you're going to do fine. I would just try to not compare to other people, just kind of stay in your lane and just realize that you've got a ton to offer people. And And the thing is, in this course creation, you don't need a gazillion people signing up to be really successful, right? And to be greatly gratified. You're offering people the opportunity to work with you through this course creation process at a lower price point, which is a gift. So I don't know, I just would recommend that you just recognize the value that you provide in helping people overcome their challenges in this format and not get too focused on what other people are doing.
Yeah, that's great. Great advice, I think. And we've had some great comments. People are thanking you and are really
Oh,
excited.
good.
I know we've gone a little longer, but when the questions
This
are
is a
great, just
big topic. It's a really big topic. So guys, I just want to encourage you to really it's so much fun. I'm not going to sugarcoat. It's a lot. Okay. I don't want to make it sound like easy, but it's a game changer. It really is. And it can be fun, especially if you like interacting and teaching. And it's just it's exciting. And each and every one of you, I know, has a concept in your mind, in your brain, that could be a great course. So I just want to encourage you to, keep plugging away and to really go for it.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you very much. I will remind everyone who's still here that we will be packaging this video up and get it out to all the attendees and registrants as soon as we can, so you can rewatch as much as you'd like. But again, thank you, Leslie, for being here. It was great. I learned a ton, so I know everyone else did for sure. Yeah, we hope to do maybe some more in the future with you as well.
Fantastic. I would love that very much. All right, take care, everybody. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.